What up, guys? Another Adonis review. We shall discuss Indiana Jones and the Great Circle today. This is a pretty exciting game coming out. When it first was announced, I didn't care too much when it came to thinking about it or wanting to play it. And I think that's just from such a long beginning part of life where you're so used to hearing games based off movie franchises in the 2000s that you kind of remember the cash grabs where they actually weren't good games and they kind of just did it just to try to make quick money. But luckily today we have games that actually put high quality effort in it, and they're worth playing. But with that being said, this game does have a lot of cons and negatives that make it worth playing, but also worth thinking about if you should wait to play it, that I'll kind of go over. Now, when you think about Indiana Jones and it having its own game, the closest comparison that immediately comes to mind would be Uncharted. Uncharted almost seems, back when it originally came out, like it was supposed to be an Indiana Jones game without actually making an Indiana Jones game. So when this game came out, it seemed like they would most likely try to do basically like an Uncharted game. Makes sense, right? A handsome guy globe-trotting and having wild adventures while trying to national treasure all the shit in different countries. With maybe the biggest change being the fact that it's in first person, which we definitely have the graphics nowadays to handle seeing these beautiful places in first person. So on the outside looking in, it could seem like we have a Uncharted game in first person in modern day, so with better graphics and starring Indiana Jones as the protagonist. And that is not the case. We can only say truly that perhaps the globe-trotting and puzzle solving could be slightly similar, but everything else about it makes it completely different, which by far is probably the biggest negative of the game. So first off, to kind of hint in, I guess we'll start with kind of the positives. It is essentially a pretty beautiful game. It does look good overall, and the cutscenes are well done. The story in itself is very interesting, and it does truly feel like an Indiana Jones movie. And whoever's playing Indiana Jones voice-wise did a fantastic job. You know, if that is Harrison Ford or it sounds just like him, so great job. The people in the story did great. Like I said, it feels like an Indiana Jones movie in the scenes that are cutscenes. And honestly, it seems like probably a better Indiana Jones movie, if it was one, than the recent movies that truly exist, just because the recent movies are just so bombastic and, you know, the aliens and whatnot. Not saying this doesn't have a bombastic portion to it, because it definitely does. But, you know, compared to the movies, this one's a little bit more grounded overall, at least in my opinion. And it's especially good. It's just tough to beat Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. Obviously, they haven't replaced him, but one day they will have to. And I'm sure they'll make a new Indiana Jones, and that'll be a tough pill to swallow, just like they did with the Han Solo movie. But obviously we have the movie now, but because Harrison Ford is alive and they haven't replaced him, and Shia LaBeouf didn't get that chance, obviously, which that was always a bad decision, I think. You know, we have to see sad, old crotchety, 80-year-old Indiana Jones in the movies. It's nice to have young Indiana Jones. Young, I guess, early 40s. Indiana Jones, which is what we get in this game. So, again, to recap on the goods, the graphics, the story is well done overall.
Saving this for the
and,
fascists.
There's sometimes you get in the groove of finding things and upgrading yourself and whatnot, that it is really good. But there is a lot of negatives that I feel like are glaring. And they're not glaring in the sense that it makes it a terrible game. Just that I feel like the game can get boring to somebody kind of easily. To go with the biggest one that I've seen that, possibly might get fixed or is fixed, but when I first started playing the game, I had immediate troubles with it shutting down. I mean, literally, the first 10 minutes of it kept shutting off on itself. I couldn't get the game to play for the life of me. I had to delete it and reinstall it. And it happened one more time once I got, midway through the game. And again, this happened to a lot of people because I did a lot of researching to try to figure out a solution for it. Because I really didn't want to delete the game since it is 100 gigabytes. But luckily for me, after I fixed it the first time, I got a good amount of playtime on it before it happened again. And this game is roughly, 30, I think it could be anywhere from 30 hours, 30 to 40 hours, 50 hours, depending on what you really do with the game. And that kind of goes into the second part. So, like I said, hit or miss with the game kind of shutting off on you. This is on PC. That doesn't happen to you if it's fixed. That's, whatever, move on. But that goes into the actual game. There are guns in this game. You do get them as just a part of your whatever costume you're wearing, because you gotta get costumes that give you a specific weapon, depending on where you're at. But your physical melee weapons, they break after a few hits, but there's a plethora of ones laying around. You can always find another one, but they'll break. And then there's your gun, which, essentially is almost kind of worthless to use. This game truly is not meant for using a gun. One, because, overall, they're just not that fun to use because there's so little reason to use it. So, 90% of the game you are hitting people, punching them, hitting, side swiping, uppercutting. It's 100% built on meleeing, punching mechanics. But the second reason why you never use a gun is because a lot of the game heavily relies on you sneaking around, because there's a bunch of guards, and again, you don't really use your gun, so you have to punch them all to death, and so you can't alert them. And that's the first negative with the gun. If you do want to shoot somebody, it is loud. There is not a silencer that I know of, and they will all hear you, and they will all attack you because you shot one of them. Maybe if you had a silencer, it would make shooting a little bit more funner. Again, I don't think that exists, so that is a huge reason. Almost every area you go in, there are a bunch of people that you're going to have to punch, and you can't shoot them, because if you shoot one of them, all of them will attack you, and they will fuck up your day. So, like I said, gunplay in this game is almost non-essential. If they do come, you don't have that much bullets. Finding bullets is hard. I always had a bunch of bullets because I never used my gun, but if I did use them, I would lose it and it'd be hard to find more, so I just never really used it. You also have to sneak up on people and use these melee weapons, so again, that kind of makes the game boring. The fighting mechanics are fun here and there. The fact that they weren't able to evenly distribute gunplay and melee combat, which I feel like they actually do a pretty good job of in Uncharted, so it's a shame that they couldn't do that in this game. And if they wanted to kind of go 60-40, 60 of it being meleeing, I think that would have been a good way of doing it. Like I said, just adding a silencer might have fixed that a little bit. I digress. So, beyond those two portions, the next biggest fault of the game is simply how long you stay in a given area. There's like
Villagers with this.
5 or 6 places you go in this game, and each place you go into has side quests and missions and little collectibles you have to do, which isn't a problem. But I feel like you spend entirely too much time in one given area, where it makes you bored or not care about it. The momentum was faster, and you traveled to places, and maybe you had to come back to them more. It'd be a bit funner, but you spend so much time in one area that you'll get bored and just be like, oh, I'm gonna be doing this for 3 more days because they just keep giving me more shit. And I was hoping towards the back half of the game that maybe you get to see more maps and just spend less time there. They do that one map, and that's why I kind of thought that when you get to that one area. But nope, then you go right back into another place that you're in for just an extremely long amount of time. So that's also the big thing. That can really make the game boring because you're just in an area for so long, and you have to run across the area, so it makes it slow and dull, and you're punching people and investigating. So it's just really easy to get bored in the game. Is the long story short of it all. So that can also ruin it for some people. End all be all though, it was a good game. I enjoyed playing it once I finally pushed myself to do it. I am a 100%er in games. That could have made it harder for me. It's possible that if you kind of just went straight in and kind of just stuck with the story and maybe just the main sides, this probably would have been a lot easier and more fun overall. But I don't feel like when I 100% games, especially nowadays, that they do anything that's too outlandish. It's kind of like just things you see and on a map and you can just go and grab it. But just doing that with how they set these maps up made it boring. But the game is good. It is worth playing if you have time. But it can get boring if you get bored easily. But the story's good overall, especially if you like Indiana Jones, and it'd be worth playing, I'd say. Overall, I'd give this game probably like a 7 out of 10. Price-wise, it's free on Game Pass. I would suggest doing that. If you Game Pass is like $20 max, and if you have enough time that you could beat it in a month, that would be worth it. I'd say this game is worth $20. That's fair enough. So buy Game Pass, play this game if you really want to do it. If you want to own the game for some reason or refuse to do that or don't have an Xbox or something, $20 is what I would pay for it. Maybe $25 max. Hope this helps you in your decision to play. If you agree with me, let me know what you agree with. If you don't, let me know why you don't.